Be precise in your speech. Jordan Peterson's 10th rule for life. How you doing, folks? It's September 19th, 2018. I'm John Lasota, and you are in the garage. With me tonight, Thaddeus Smith. Say hello, Thaddeus.
Hello, Thaddeus.
Walter Campos.
Hello, Thaddeus.
So, for those who don't know, Walt knows a little bit. Walt knows some of this. Thaddeus is not, so this is good. Jordan B Peterson, he's a clinical psychologist from the University of Toronto, recently got in trouble in Canada because they've passed laws in Canada that you have to call people by whatever, whatever word they want to be called by, you have to call, or you're being an asshole. And you can get arrested or fired for this. You can get fined, whatever. And I don't want to get political about it, but, he got into some trouble for that. And he got huge doing an interview on some English news show where he is he's a psychologist. So he looks at statistics and like he's a scientist. So, he looks at science and he looks at, like why we do things and like what statistics say leads to what kind of behavior and stuff like that. Right. And, so he was on a show and he was talking about, they talk about the gender gap, the gender pay gap. And he's talking about when you do a multivariate analysis, which is where you look at all the factors of why something happens, right?
Okay.
There isn't actually a gender pay gap. There are specific reasons why things happen the way they do. Things like working less hours, making sacrifices for higher end jobs, the willingness to fight for a position that is, a pain in the ass to keep because there's a lot of competition, childbirth, deciding to have families instead of pursuing their careers. These are decisions that people consciously make, not because they're being crushed down, but because it suits them. It suits their lifestyle. That's what they want. So because of that, it looks like on average, plus men take the more dangerous jobs. Women have jobs that more taking care of people that don't pay as much, that which is based on what society values and not really necessarily on them, but the woman kept trying to turn it into how he is a sexist and he hates women, and he wouldn't let her, but he wouldn't let her do it though, because he's like, no, and he was just like amazingly calm, and he become huge since. Right. Okay. He's written a bunch of books, really good ones. He has one called Maps of Meaning, which you could go on YouTube and watch his entire course. He used to teach at Harvard, but you could watch his entire course, Maps of Meaning, and it's telling how the Bible is a psychological roadmap to teach you to look at the world, look at things you don't understand in the world, and learn how to navigate it and control it, bring it to order. He calls it chaos and order, right? Yeah. So now he has another book that he just came out with called 12 Rules for Life, and a lot of really good advice. Now he's also part of this group that I actually started getting into because I watched Joe Rogan, right? They call themselves the Intellectual Dark Web, the IDW. Okay. And it's a bunch of intellectuals, really smart guys that are in the high end of their professions. But there's a neuroscience, this scientist. There's a evolutionary biologist. One of them runs Peter Thiel's companies, and he's like a genius mathematician or some shit like that.
Okay.
Then there's Ben Shapiro, who's from the Ben Shapiro Show, the conservative podcast. But most of them aren't even conservative. Most of them are left-leaning. Most of them are liberals. And they talk about this shit. They have discussions about what it is that actually is going on in the world, because there's so much that's fucking crazy, and there's so much going, But I used to think that I was alone because my degree is in social science. I look at statistics. The stats tell you what's actually happening out there. But when you look at the news, none of that is really what's happening. And this isn't to get political, because both sides do it. It's left or right, whatever it is. Sure. It's just what is out there is total horseshit. It's not what's really happening. And if they actually started talking about what is actually happening, what those statistics mean, and what the different things tell us, we'd have a much different perspective on the world. Right. But now these guys, the IDW, they're talking, a lot of them are talking about it, like basically how we've gone away from the Bible. People still think communism is a good idea, even though history should have closed the book on that one. You know,
Right.
So there's just like all kinds of crazy stuff, but we need new ways to guide us how to act right in the world, because it's all falling apart. Everything that kept us together is all falling apart right now. Right. So they talk it out to try to figure out how to find what these things are. So I listen to them all the time. So, they like basically every day I'm listening to one of these guys' videos, and it's really supremely interesting stuff, especially for a guy like me. I mean, I studied a lot of this stuff for my degree. So I saw him on Thursday night. He came down to Miami. And he was doing what he does is he goes on tour and he goes to different cities and he starts talking. He talks about his book, right? Or he talks about different things that he's trying to work out in his head. And what it really is, it's like an intellectual exercise. He's thinking about an idea or a problem, and he's thinking at it with the audience, thinking out in front of you, and then answers some questions and stuff like that. So he, like the title, like I read in, he read rule number 10 when I was there. It's be precise in, what is it? Be precise in your language? Is that what it was? Be precise in your speech. That's it. By the way, before the show, my wife and I are walking around the streets of Miami, waiting to waste time. And what happens? But who gets up from the dinner table and starts walking away? We're walking towards us right at that time, but Jordan Peterson.
Nice.
So yeah, and so it was crazy because I just walked right up to this dude. Oh, hi, how you doing? Like I knew him forever. But he was awesome though. He introduced himself.
Old pals from the old day.
That's how it was like. It was crazy, but he was like really fucking cool dude, man. Like shook my hand, asked me my name, asked my wife's name, shook her hand. It was, it was very gracious. It was great.
Nice.
So he's a good dude, man. But he was talking about, he's saying, be precise in your speech, right? Now, what he's talking about is, he goes a long way of saying it, but basically, people need things to target for. If you can't hit a target, if you're not looking at it,
Okay.
right? I mean, it makes sense. If you're not aiming for something, what are you going to hit? How are you going to hit something if you're not aiming for it? And we are, and it's one thing that we need to do. It's part of our consciousness. And he gets into some really crazy shit. Like, this is something Walt knows about. Quantum physics, right? They say that like your consciousness is about 10% of your brain. And that's the part, it's like a radar system, like a fighter jet. It's picking out the things that are moved that either you want or the most dangerous, right? And your subconscious mind is where everything does all the work. You're basically on autopilot all the time based on how you program your subconscious mind, right?
Right.
So Peterson the other day brings up Aldous Huxley, the Doors of Perception, right? So what he's saying is that, and he says that it appears to be this way from the science that tells us this too, just like Huxley said in the Doors of Perception. And I bought the audiobook right after I went to the show, which I listened to already, and he does say exactly this. That consciousness is like a limiting factor, right? So literally, your brain is literally picking up everything in the universe all at once. Your brain is picking this up.
Right?
Okay.
And your consciousness is focusing yourself on the tasks that need to be done in order to survive biologically in this world, because everything else is too much. It's too much out there, to take it all at once and be able to function at the same time. You can't do it. So consciousness limits all of that, right? Huxley talked about that in the Doors of Perception. That we talk about taking mescaline or taking LSD. What you're doing is you're opening those doors of perception. You're opening up how much your consciousness gets to see. Have you guys ever done that stuff?
No.
Yeah, I've read about that stuff, and I've heard about all these factors that come into play, and we suppress all of it in order just to survive. So I have heard of all those ideas before.
So I'm a degenerate, right?
I
used to do these things
like that.
Yeah, I used to do these things, and like I could tell you, like I mean, mushrooms. Team America World Police on mushrooms is the funniest thing you ever heard in your life. Right off
Even
the
without
bat.
mushrooms.
It's on mushrooms though. Like, I mean, I wish you could just experience it for yourself. I mean, the folks out there, experience it for yourself. Trust me. You won't, you know, unless you die, you won't regret it.
Now there is that 1% chance to die, but I mean, other than that, it's amazing.
Well, at least it's not like a fucking like a medication commercial where there's 85 things that won't kill you, but you wish it did.
You may occur anal bleeding, loss of limbs.
I think
that rash on your elbow, it'll be gone.
I think one of them did say anal bleeding. I think I've seen that on one of those commercials. Anal bleeding. I'm pretty sure I saw that.
Yes.
That's horrible.
Yes. Why would I?
Go ahead.
Even if it's to save my life, I'm not sure that the side effect of anal bleeding is ever a good thing.
I mean, does it stop?
Right? Periodic.
And then after listing all of these side effects, the very next thing that these commercials say is, ask your doctor if such and such a thing is right for you. No, it ain't right for me. You just listed 100 things that would go wrong.
Right. All those things are
not right for
anything
me.
I want.
Especially when it's like, oh, you're psoriasis. Fucking flaky skin versus anal bleeding.
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Somehow it always comes back to something up your ass, though, doesn't it?
Fucking.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with this shit. I don't know what to do with people.
Peterson, you were saying, though, right?
But
now, when you met him, he was like,
yeah.
"Oh, hey, really nice to meet you. But I was wondering, before the conversation goes any further, can I go get my heads?"
Yeah, see, he didn't do that. That was the first thing you're looking for. You know what I mean? That's the first thing you got to wonder about. Hold on a minute. So he turns back to the chair and picks him up. You know what I mean? Yeah, then you got to worry. But
I can't talk philosophy without my friends.
One of them is shrunken, the other's normal size.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's still, he talks about like when you're on that shit, right? On for like acid, right? There was a playground that I used to in my junior high school that used to have, they'd like the exercise equipment. Like they would have a bar that you would like a balance bar that you would like was like diagonally, right? And you had to try to balance on it, right? But it's a hard thing to do, and it was a real steep thing. But when you're on that, you don't even notice. It looks flat to you. You just walk across it, like jump off the other end, like nothing's going on. We would scale 25-foot fences in like three moves. Boom, boom, and you're up there. I mean, like crazy, right? But the thing that's really the thing that's nutty about it, right? You literally understand everything there is to understand in the universe. I mean, literally, there's a mindset in there, and I have to imagine this is when you talk about Buddha, Nirvana, or enlightenment. This is the state of mind that you're in when you're in enlightenment. You really feel like at peace, relaxed, at peace, and you get it, and that's it. I get it. Yeah, I get it. I get it all. And then when you sober up, you fucking forget. And every time you do it, you're like, oh man, I hope I remember that. And then you hope you can bring it back with you, but you never can.
It's similar to like that dream state that you're in when you kind of your consciousness sort of gets to that level where you're about to wake up, but shit's still going on, and you're looking at it going, okay, cool. No, don't freak out. I get it. I'm dreaming. And then, but then you wake up, you're like, oh my God, that was crazy. Oh, I'm going to tell somebody. And then you turn around, you're just like, oh, I guess I should have some breakfast now. You know?
And it's done. And the whole rest of the day, you're like, man, fuck, I'm trying to remember that. You try to get back there. But
and
you
it's
can't.
then you have that niggling feeling in the back of your neck somewhere, and you're just like, oh, fuck. It's like, I was fuck, like shit. It's like right on the tip of your tongue, like when you have that word, and you're like, oh, I know the fucking word, and you feel like you almost, if you just fucking say whatever, like, you ever try to talk without like really thinking? and just like, you know, you
I think the show proves that we do it all the time.
Yeah, true. But like, that's why I feel that we have that kind of feeling, is because if you just fucking spoke and just went with it, instead of like this crazy gerbil in a, you know, wheel kind of, or hamster, I guess, right, in a wheel, spinning things and overthinking things and complicating shit in your own head, you know?
Well, in a sense, that's kind of what he's talking about with be precise in your speech. Now, like when you study martial arts and what athletes call the zone, when you study martial arts, it's you don't have to, you just react. You don't have to think about it. You just react. So like that and Wolf probably has the same thing when he's playing. When you're not trying to do anything and it's doing the motion by itself without you thinking, that's when you're out of the way. You're letting go. You're letting go of your ego, and you're just taking, you know, letting whatever Absolutely. It is take over. You know, that's the zone.
Absolutely.
So that is, you know, when he says be precise in your speech, he's talking about speak truth, right? Always be honest. But when you're in that frame of mind, when you're not thinking about it and you're just acting, that's genuine, and there's nothing more honest than that. You know, being genuine in that sense, we're just pouring out of you. You know, so in a sense, that's kind of the same thing. So when you just say whatever comes out, it's coming out honestly, truthfully, as you see it.
Yeah, it's like to some degree. Now, obviously, you know, it starts to branch off in different directions as far as conscious and subconscious when you're talking about it in those terms. And then, like, but if you look at the similarities, like when you get drunk, right? People get drunk and just, oh my God, I love you, and it's like these emotions and these feelings that they normally don't show or don't express come gushing out.
Well, that's what in Doors of Perception he talks about that. You know, he talks about alcohol, and he talks about other drugs in there too, and like the areas where people use those things too. And he's like, you know, considering what all this is and your connection to it, how you feel on it, and then to go back to that, it's no wonder people do things to pull themselves away from consciousness, to pull themselves out of it, because you want to get back into that state where you are like the flower, still and cool and just free, and you know, whatever it is. Yeah, he talks about that. But yeah, I mean that's ultimately the state of mind where you need to be for things to happen. When you're in that state is when good things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I guess you breach that with whether it's the alcohol or the, you know, the drugs or whatever, right? It dampens, right, the inhibitions and the worry and the guilt and all those.
It opens you up a little bit. Is really what it does.
Those negative kind of things that, again, like you were talking about, the narrowing of the consciousness, right? Like, fuck, you know, I can't fucking think about that. I have to fucking breathe, you know, like.
You have to think that anything that's an limiting factor would be the consciousness part of it, you know, where, you know, your interaction with the rest of the world as opposed to what you want to naturally do. Well, what are you thinking about?
What am I not thinking about? I'm thinking about so many things. It's like narrowing it down.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, you know. But see, it's interesting too, because again, be precise in your speech. Now, Walt is a fan of Anthony Robbins, who uses NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. The words that you use program your brain to do what you do, you know, whatever habits you have, right? So be precise in your speech. Use specific words to program your head, program your subconscious to act the right way in the right situations, you know? Now, something that life coaches do, right? And Anthony Robbins would say, ask the right questions, you get the right answers. Right. Peterson was giving an example. He gave an example in sports. It's not that you win or lose, is how you play the game. You guys heard that, right? It's not whether you win or lose, is how you play the game, right?
Sure.
And I don't know. When I was a kid, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? You play to win the game.
Right.
Right?
Herb Edwards. You play to win the game.
Especially the Lewis junior varsity team, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We all played high school, junior, varsity baseball together, folks. So yeah, that's weird. It's funny. I was just thinking about that today too. I was just thinking about like that 10 minutes before we went around. I don't know why. I don't know why that popped into my head. This whole time we never bring it up once. Anyway, but
it's the subconscious of your mind opening up.
I'm glad that you actually said that because I had no idea where I was. I had lost my train of thought.
Thaddeus is gonna take out Quado in a second to open up your mind. Open your mind, Lasota.
But yeah, Peterson was talking about that. It's not what how you play the game. It's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game. Because how many of you guys played? You played ball, and that's probably why I was thinking about it before. Have you played with a good ball player, but they were an asshole, so you didn't want to play with them? You don't want to be on the team.
Oh sure.
Right? Have you played with guys that weren't so great, but you enjoyed being around them so much, you want them on your team every time, even though if then they suck, you're all right, whatever. Oh, we lost a game because fuck face, but you know what? He's awesome. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Right.
Sounds like Lewis back in '92.
Yeah. That saying, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game, is exactly that. It doesn't matter if you win all the time if nobody likes you, because you're not going to be allowed to play, because nobody's going to want to play with you because nobody likes you.
Yeah.
So how you play the game is important. So it's not winning isn't the important thing. It's playing the game in a way that everybody wants you to play all the time so that you can continue to win.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Or at least have the opportunity to, right?
Or at least have the opportunity to, which you have to lose sometimes, because if you don't lose sometimes, then other people won't want to play with you.
Right.
You have to lose about 30% of the time, which is funny because you look at sports and if somebody has a 700 winning percentage, it's fucking crazy. It's historical.
Amazing.
Right. It's holy fuck, 700 winning percentage. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, look at baseball. All the best teams lose 30% of the time.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's fucking it's crazy. So it's kind of like and they know that from studying rats. But now, so like he went a long about way of putting out though, like what's the point? He used soccer as an example. What's the point of soccer? To kick the ball in the net.
Right.
But is that the point of soccer? Is the point of soccer to kick the ball in the net? Or is it to kick more balls in the net than the other team?
Right.
Or is it to kick more balls in the net than the other team in a certain amount of time?
Right.
Or is it to kick the balls in the net more than the other team in a certain amount of time without them, score on you?
Right.
Right. Or is it doing that in a way that makes your teammates better so they want to be on your team?
Right. All of the above.
Or is it in a way that your teammates want to play with you and they want you to be on your team and that you help them improve?
Right.
And the other people on the other team like to play against you and they want to continue playing the game.
Yeah.
Right.
But you notice though, where do you start with? You start with practicing kicking the ball in the net. So but there's every level you have to delve down with another question to get down to exactly what you're talking about. The meaning of it is, right? And that's what's important about it. Now with life coaching, they're always talking about they talk about asking questions, and this is something that Walt knows a lot about because Walt's done it to me. What do you want? Why do you want that? Who do you want it with? What do you think that's going to do for you? How do you think that's going to make you feel?
Right.
What are you going to do to get it? Why haven't you done it already? What's keeping you from doing it now? At every level you dive down, you could dive down further. Yet, what's that going to do for your life? How do you think it's going to change? How might things be the same? And you narrow it down, you focus down, because if you can't see the target, you can't hit it. And how can you get what you want if you have no idea what the fuck it is? And if you have no idea what it is, how are you going to move towards it?
Right.
It's crazy because this is now he has his book. It's 12 Rules for Life. He got like through 1.5. That he had a whole hour where he's talking about just that.
How long was the show?
I would say it was probably about 2 hours. At first hour for him to go over what he's got in his head, and then the question and answers part. Now one of the things that he said that really struck me, because he's kind of a volatile guy, but he's big on what they call the Big Five personality test, and he thinks that this predicts a lot of what you're going to do, certain situations and everything.
We spoke about this a couple weeks ago, right?
We did. We talked about this the other day. Right. And see, I think I figured out. We all have our issues, I think I figured out what my current situation is. I have 99 volatility. So,
you?
Nah. So basically, somebody says something about me, I yelled at them. Fuck you, pal. Not only do I have...
You get a titty attack?
Not only do I have 99 volatility, I have 99 neuroticism. So I'm going to get anxious and then attack somebody like a fucking rabid dog. But I also have 17 agreeableness. I'm 17th percentile agreeable. So if there's 100 people in the room, I'd be the 17th guy that would get into an argument.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm, he's big on this. I forget where I was going with this, though. Now, one thing, switching gears though, because I met him, right, and I watch him most of the time. And you ever meet somebody and you had a, you knew what you wanted to say, and then you met them and you were so like, holy shit, I met them, and all that all went out your head.
Yep.
And then an hour later, you're like, oh fuck, I should have said this. You ever have that?
All the time.
Yeah.
I had that with Kevin Smith, actually.
I can imagine.
Right.
We've talked about him a lot on the show, and he's like big for you, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not even so much like the movies or whatever, but just like him, like especially like in these later years, as he's reintroduced himself to fucking weed and he he has this whole life that he's already now built, and he can really start to enjoy it. His daughter's older now or whatever, and just the kind of person that, like, he wrote a book and whatever else, and he does like these talking tours and stuff, and just the positivity and the whole like I'm a fat piece of shit from Jersey, but I fucking worked really hard at something I loved. And I got lucky, right place, right time, whatever, at different points in my life. But fuck, man, if I can do it, you can do it. So why aren't you doing it?
Now, and that's the thing, and that right there. Why, if I could do it, you could do it. Why aren't you doing it? And where exactly? Be precise in your speech. Have a target. Go for the target. But like Anthony Robbins would say with life coaching, what's keeping you from getting it? You got to, what are you doing that's leading you towards it, and what are you doing that's leading you away from it? Like, is this something that he would say to decide means to cut off all the possibilities?
Right.
So are you gonna, have you decided that this is something that you want to do? If it is, then why aren't you doing it? What are you doing to make it happen? And I could say, like we mentioned in the last week, we try to do a little recording early while we're picking the show topics. Normally we do our fart and just dick jokes. And we pick our, we go over stuff in the beginning, and we, bullshit, whatever. And we're recording for the Patreon. So I deleted last week's Patreon version, right? But I haven't even set up the Patreon account yet. Why haven't I done that? And that's the thing, though. I have a lot of shit going on. I don't have a lot of time, but I could still make time to do that. Why haven't I done it?
Yeah, it's some of these things that are like the simple, so to speak, fixes, like the 5 minutes here or the 10 minutes there. that would make ourselves better, but we don't because of fucking whatever.
Right. Now, if you're focused, if this is the thing that you want, you're focused on making this thing happen, then you have a spare moment. You're going to get that thing done.
Yeah.
You know, whatever spare time you get, you're going to steal away whatever time you can to get that done. Now, I am doing a lot of time for the show. Normally, I even that I could get the stories together, list together earlier for you guys than I do. It's not always possible, but you know, I could.
Yeah.
But I could update the website now. I am doing a lot of work with the transcripts. We've gone over how we're gonna see what comes out. Put the pluses and minuses together and see what comes out. It's a lot of it comes out as gibberish, but I could make some of it work. But I want to see where that goes. Doing a lot of work with that. But if you want to make it for me, I would want a company. I would want an entertainment company. If I could choose what I could do, the fucking $100 million, I could choose what I want to do. I'd want my own entertainment company. I'd pay for guys for podcast shows, and I would, I'd sponsor podcast shows, and I would have books written, and if I got into it, movies, comics, that kind of shit, where it was me and my crew, and we were writing the storylines and doing the fucking things for fun, because that's what we wanted to do. Well, how do you make that happen without the 100 million? Because if that's what you want, you gotta fucking do it, or don't.
You gotta map it out and plan it out
and fucking get shit done. Right,
yeah.
Make it happen. You need to have a target, so you need to be precise in what you're feeding yourself.
Yes.
To be honest.
Yeah.
And
see that's where the biggest narrowing, like we talked about the narrowing of the conscious, whatever, that's where the biggest narrowing of the dreams, so to speak, come into play, because fuck kids, or fuck time, or whatever, and it's so much easier to come up with an excuse as to why you don't take the extra step or mile or fucking whatever, than to do it.
See, that's why now Peterson, the big 5 personality stuff that I was talking about before, right? We got into that strangely on a tangent. They say that the 2 biggest factors in success are IQ and conscientiousness.
Okay.
Now, conscientiousness is, which I'm actually low in. Explains a lot, huh? I'm high in openness. See, I should be a liberal. I should be on the left. I'm actually dead center. So if anybody was wondering, I'm actually dead center. I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I'm politically right in the middle, on the libertarian side, not on the communist side.
He's of the party. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, right. Fuck. Do whatever you want to do. Just don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really care. That's truly how I feel.
Can I get that fucking party, please?
Okay. So orderliness, though. So conscientiousness is orderliness. Clean up after yourself. Fucking writing those lists. I'm 54th in that, so that's fine. Okay. But industriousness, which is the other part that makes up conscientiousness, is 1. Industriousness, that's fucking sitting down and getting it done, even though when it's boring and you have to struggle through it, you don't want to do it anymore. I have 1. If I have to struggle, fuck you.
Yeah. So basically, you're the last person to get it done.
I'm the last person to get it done. Well, see, that's the thing. That's the thing where it's yes and no. Yes and no. Because I'm the last person to sit down and start working at it. Right, that doesn't mean I won't finish it before you.
Right. Some of those other traits then kick into
gear. Exactly. Like the
now,
IQ.
You might finish it when there's like a deadline, and you might finish it at the very last minute, right?
Exactly. I will finish it at the very last minute.
God,
it will probably
that was
be better
our entire fucking high school career, right?
Exactly.
When do you start the fucking project that's due Monday morning? Monday morning, of course.
Right.
Come on, man. Fucking
yeah.
Walt, you don't remember Resnick? This is
I
what
remember Resnick.
This is what I get. One. This is what I get from John. 1.
That dude looked like Stephen King.
And he did look just like Stephen King.
Yeah.
And then he opens the book and he breaks the bind because I never opened it. I got like a 96 in this class.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so like, I mean, but that makes sense. Now it makes sense. See, Peterson knows his shit. Now there is something, Walt, you know about the Myers-Briggs test?
That sounds familiar. You're gonna have to refresh my memory.
Myers-Briggs, it tests certain. It's a different scale. Well, it's like for me, I'm an INTP. It is a intuitive thinking person. I basically get lost in my own world.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, it's introversion, intuition, thinking, and perception. So somebody like me, I'm introverted. I think
Right.
time, I'm always thinking, but I'm also feeling too. I'm feeling like the universe around me. If like the force, this doesn't feel right. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And perception. Perception. I am good at picking up patterns. If I have a gift, that's what it is. I pick up patterns. Everybody's different. Everybody has their gifts. Everybody has their weaknesses. Obviously, I am low in it. I am the least industrious person in the room. I'm the last one to get going.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So, John, how do you take the test? Is it like ask you a bunch of questions and
now the Big Five personality test? They ask you a bunch of questions with agree, disagree, highly disagree, agree, highly agree, disagree, highly disagree, and neutral. And they ask you a bunch of questions about things like I don't know, just you plan to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
You explode at the wrong moment.
Okay.
And you got to be honest about it, because if you're full of shit, you can lie to anybody you want, but don't lie to yourself.
You can manipulate any of these fucking things to be a result you want if you want, really.
Exactly, but
if you know the kind of algorithm, then yeah.
But be honest. If you're honest about it, what's the point in taking it if you're not going to be honest?
Yeah.
Now I get it if you're taking it for work and you want to
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah. That I get, but the other one, I don't remember how that test went. It's been a while since I took it. But I imagine it's kind of a similar thing. They just rate on different scales and they tell you different now. But that one, right? That one for me in particular, it says that like I'm analytical. I can't act unless I see the chain of how it's going to work. It has to make logical sense and it has to work for me. Otherwise, I'm not going to act. I'm not going to move at all.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Which also fits my personality, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a combination of the two of them. I got to look more into how they stack.
Yeah. And that's because I think I deal with some of that as well. It's that crippling feeling, like it's the same thing when like you have a fucking room that you need to clean, for example, like in the house or whatever, and it'll take you a day to clean it. You don't want to do it, so you fucking put it off. You put it off. But what happens is more fucking shit gets piled up. The room gets more fucked up. You create more work for yourself.
Yep.
Now it fucking starts to snowball, and it's this daunting thing. Like, oh god, I don't even know where to start. Like,
exactly. You walk in, there's a mess, and you don't even know where to begin. So you close the door and you walk out.
Yeah.
And
fuck this.
Next thing you know, you're a hoarder, and the only thing to do is set the house on fire.
It's over.
Yep. That's it.
It just, what kind of person you are depends on whether you tell the wife and kids that it's going to happen.
Is Walt blowing himself over there?
You found me out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the creepy eyes look like something naughty was going on over there.
That's the website he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah. That you should go to. Peterson has it. It's like $10 to do it, and you can take the Big Five personality test on Peterson's site. What is that on there, Walt?
Personality assessment for individuals, and it's understandmyself.com.
Understandmyself.com. Yeah, that's a good thing. Look at that. Plug in Jordan Peterson. Look at that. As if he needs a plug. He makes enough money.
He's even like doing a diet and everything. He's even like plugging a diet nowadays.
Nah, you know what? He's great though, so he deserves it. He deserves his success. I have to say, yeah, I tend to think like this, and I tend to get lost in these things. Again, I get lost in my head. I'm a thinker. But you know, one, it helps to know that you're not alone, that you're not the only person who thinks about these kinds of things this kind of way. A lot of the problems, and this is something I will actually want to talk about too. Now, he has a thing there where another guy who was in this intellectual dark web, this guy named Sam Harris. He's like a neuroscientist or something like that. He's not a neurosurgeon. He's like a neurologist or some shit like that. I don't know. Fucking genius. Real smart guy. Right?
I don't know what the fuck he does, but he's real fucking smart.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But he's a secularist though. So he's like on the other side of the spectrum.
Right. He doesn't believe in God. He thinks that anything that you can attribute to God, you could use reason to get to the rules. And you don't need to have all the risk of all the terrible things that come with religion, you know, like stoning gay people and things like that, because you don't need to, you know, the religion is full of brainwashing and unneeded suffering. And, you know, it's true. There's a lot of dogma that leads to fucking unnecessary suffering in religion. That's absolutely true. But there's also a lot of good stuff. But the thing is, like, and this is the thing that I wanted to say to him before, you know, I was like, oh, you know, I wish I should have said this. They have this thing where they're going back and forth where Harris is saying we can reason to get all the information, all the ways, all the practices that we need to put down in whatever great book to lead us into the least amount of suffering possible, right? And Peterson, his contention is, well, you kind of need religion, and you can't really say that because without religion, you never would have gotten here in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, because religion is what kept everybody from killing themselves. It's what kept everybody from to structure themselves, and it's a psychological roadmap to do what, you know, what you need to do. And it's essentially a way to make sense of the world. Right. And now the reason why everything's going nuts is because we don't even agree on facts. We don't even know what like, we don't even agree on biology anymore. So like, how can you make sense of the world where nothing makes sense anymore, where people can't even decide on normal things to agree on?
Yeah.
Right.
You know? So, but they're both, you know, make good points, except for this, right? If reason could get us to where the idea of God couldn't, right? Why hasn't it done it yet?
Exactly. A lot of people aren't as smart to understand reason.
That's exactly it. Most people are unreasonable. That's exactly it. And if guys like Sam Harris, who's as smart as they come, can't figure out the way to get to that, to use reason to get to that truth of how, you know, how to do all this, even if they got to it, how would you explain it to the mass of morons that don't know what is going? Like, how many people don't even know how the government runs, how it works?
Yeah,
you know, how many people use irregardless, even though it's not a word?
Yeah, but irregardless of whether it's a word or not.
You know what I mean? So like what I think about, and this is something that, you know, it's kind of what got me into all this, right? Like, there are certain things, just basic things from high school that you should know anyway. But you get into Facebook arguments, you talk to people on Facebook, politics, about anything, religion, any of the stuff, right? And most of these things, like what we originally talked about, Peterson with the gender gap, most of these things, when you break it down to all the reasons why certain things happen, break out to be a lot of things, a lot of factors, a lot of stuff that leads up to whatever it is. And that's everything in the world. It's not so simple as, you know, sexism. It's not so very simple as that. That's not really how some of it is, but very little of it is. There's a lot that leads to that. Right. Well, look at that. Well, you can't have discussions.
You can literally see the train derailing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And John's just staring in fucking horror, like, oh, those poor people.
And I had something to say too, man. I hate when that happens. Well, where was I?
Well, with the whole IQ thing, I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Like, there are about 10% of the people in this country, I think it was, that have an IQ of 80 or below and can't even get you can't get a government job.
The Army won't
or the Army won't train you because you're untrainable for the Army. So what do you do with that 10% of the people? Like, what do they do? What do they work at? What do they?
And that's that 10%. But the next 10% aren't much smarter, and the next 10% of that are much smarter. And that was actually, you brought me back to my point. These things, they're so complicated. There's so many different things that lead to it, right? You think about an iceberg, right?
Right.
And an iceberg, the reason why icebergs cause problems for ships is because you only see the point, but underneath the water, they could be massive underneath there, even though you only see the small little point. And you talk to these people all the time, right? You talk to people and they only see the small little point. And you can't even and you see the iceberg. And you can't even explain to them that all they're seeing is a small little point, because they think that's the whole thing, and they won't hear anything else because they don't see under the water.
Well, that's like the people that still insist the world is flat.
Right.
And they are out there. The flat earthers, they are out there, and it's real.
Yeah.
So,
and hence the wage gap too, because we were talking about the 20 factors, and and most people only see one, and they're only shown one in the media. They're only shown one.
And they are only shown when it's done on purpose. Well, it's just like that's one thing that Peterson says. If you have 5 points of articulation, basically you have 5 reasons why you're right. You can't be beaten in an argument because most people can't get past 3, and as it is, most people really can't get past 1.
Right.
Well, you know what the media has actually become, right? We're talking about this whole thing and their angles of the religion and where it takes you and what it teaches you. Fucking media has taken over that job from old school like religion and stuff, right? Because everybody back in the day went to fucking church, right? And you went to Sunday school and you learned the Bible and you learned good and evil and all this shit, right? Fucking nobody does that shit anymore. So the fucking media, fucking here you go. Here's right and wrong. Here's what you should focus on.
And depending on what church you go to is the right and wrong that you believe in. So if you're, if you're on one side of the media, or if you're on the other side of the media, it is what
absolutely.
It is. And it literally is that. It's crazy. Only they're wrong. They're teaching the wrong ethics. They're not teaching the right ethics.
Oh fuck yeah, because it's been so fucking convoluted and shit. Like Opie and Anthony, they used to make this joke back in the day that long gone is the day of the media is the one dude, right, with the fucking 7 clocks behind him, just saying, here are the headlines, blah 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 happened here, blah 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 happened. Like they just fucking, hey, to keep you up on everything. Over here some shit happened, over here some shit happened, this happened over here, by you got this, and good night. Now it's, oh my god, can you fucking believe these people? Like, and it's a whole spin, and it's a whole herding of the cattle mentality.
Right. Now, because it equals rating. That's why.
Yeah.
Now, okay, and granted, the churches are hurting the cattle mentality too. That's religion.
Absolutely. But again, it comes down to the responsibility of what you do, right? With great responsibility with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Now, the thing is, though, is like if reason could get us there, right? But the world is full of unreasonable people who you can't even get to agree with basic facts. How do you even explain it to them? Right. You can't. And that's today, right. Even with all our advances, even with so how much more information we have at our hand, you still can't explain to somebody how wrong they are. They still won't even listen to you. Right.
Right.
But most people listen to, but what most people will still listen to, he ain't going to be happy.
Right.
Or do this.
Right.
And think about why people don't eat pork. Why religions don't eat pork. Why they only eat fish on Fridays. Well, okay, they're not going to listen to the leader saying there's a pork famine killing people, if they even knew that. Because again, you don't know about bacteria. You don't know that that's why it's happening. But they do listen to, you can't eat pork or God will kill you.
Yeah. And if he doesn't kill you when you get dead, he's going to say, "Fuck you, get out of here."
But if you listen, he'll take care of you later after you die, because right now this sucks.
Right.
You know, you could get that message. You can get people to fucking listen to that because they'll say, you know what? You're right. Right now does suck. It's got to be better over there.
No.
That sounds great. And that guy and my Uncle Fred died eating that pig.
Mm-hmm.
And this all must be true.
See? Fucking God struck him down. What do you mean autopsy?
But that's still the way people are, though. That's still the same way. It's still the same. So, like, how can you get to reason when people aren't smart enough to fucking? And that's the thing. You can't assume that people are smart as the 96th percentile, the 98th percentile in intelligence. You know, because they're not. Most of them are, you know, like there was a stat I used to tell people that think of it this way, right? Think of everyone you know, right? And then most of the world is half as smart as that.
Right.
But think of those people and the rest of the world is half as smart as them.
Right.
So, like, the world is, you know, that's the thing. The whole, let people learn more, but people just can't learn more. Some people don't have the capacity to learn more.
Exactly.
Right. So, how could you reason with somebody like that? You can't. And that's the flaw. And that's the flaw in that argument. You can't reason with people. You can't use reason to get to a place where people can't reason to.
You have to use simple stories, i.e., the Bible. You know,
you have to explain it in a way that a moron can get it.
Yeah.
You know, or that they're afraid it might be true. And why do we believe?
I think one of the I didn't mean to cut you off there. I think one of the story, if I'm not mistaken, one of the stories in the Bible is about that when Jesus wanted to recruit people, he didn't actually use the words recruit. He said he knew his audience. He knew that the people were, in order to survive, they were fishermen, and he told them that you have to be fishers of men. So that they knew that, okay, well, what they have to do is they have to kind of, you know, put the bait on the hook and, you know, send it out there, reel it in, you know. So they did the same thing in order to recruit people, is they gave them the bait, you know, at the right time, they reeled it in. Yeah. So, you know, so he knew how to talk to people, you know. So I think that was one of the stories. But a scholar would tell me which story I'm talking about. But that was that's the idea. So yeah, I gotta look at to see what he has to say about Sodom and Gomorrah. That's an interesting story. I'd like to. Right. Now they talk about Hinduism, right? Hinduism has some crazy shit, right? But when you talk about again, when you talk about opening the doors of perception and everything flowing into you and all the different vibrant colors and stuff like that, I could definitely see how Hindus would be like tripping on some who the fuck knows what, like the Native Americans were tripping on peyote. Like I could definitely see Hindus tripping balls and seeing elephants with 8 heads and fucking all these, you know.
Oh, and this shit is the
chakras.
The third eye, right? That's
third eye and the chakras. And
you know, I honestly don't know a lot about the religion, but it's something that I've attempted to read more about, and I don't know. My industrialness cast in, I guess. You know,
hey, I got this book about Hinduism. It's all the way the fuck over there, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, he's got that one, you know. So,
but to read the book, I'd have to open it. I'd have to flip pages.
The thing is, and this is true though. The one thing about the Big Five personality, and he tells you this, like he says, if you had a bad day, don't take the test, because it's going to affect your answers.
Right.
So, like, it's something that does change with time as you change through your stages.
Yeah.
Because, like,
sure.
When
I was just gonna say I took it a couple of months ago, and I'd probably want to take it again because I did it late at night one night. So I'd be curious to see if they end up similar or they change. So. And I'm a 56th. I'm 56th in conscientiousness, apparently.
Oh, okay. So you're much higher than me. I'm like,
one is a lonely number.
Well, no, that's
that was industriousness, right?
That's industriousness. I think I'm like but still I'm like I'm not much better. I think I'm 11th or something like that, and I'm 12th in politeness. I'm just not polite at all. I'm a 12th in politeness. That's nice.
I'm 32nd in industriousness.
I'm 11th in industrial. Oh, I'm 11th in conscientiousness. Nice, but it does change though, because like when I wrote VPI, right, and Walt, you were around for this whole thing,
right?
I was teaching. I finished my book, and I was finishing my degree all at the same time. So I was teaching, and I was working full time, and I was writing a book all at the same time. Then doing all the promotions for the book when it came out, and all that other stuff. And Walt and I did all the shit together. We were all over. Plus, not only that, we were also studying social dynamics, life coaching, going into places and practicing this stuff.
Right.
This is a thing.
Fun stuff.
There's a book out there called The Mystery Method, right? And it's basically what it teaches. It's based on it's based in evolutionary psychology, and it's mating rituals, mating habits, and it's written about the way that the world's greatest pickup artist would pick up chicks. But it is completely based in science, right? And so Walt and I have read many of these books, and we would go and the techniques work. We would go out and the techniques work. Bar none. Absolutely. But then the guys that were in that crew, one of them had a book that they had to do these type of techniques. And one of them was that you had to randomly pick people from the phone book and ask them to pick a movie for you.
Right. Right. That was fun.
So the hijacked was to call, and you had to call as many people as you had to before you got to get 3 people to suggest a movie for you to go see. You're a total stranger. You just call their phone. Oh, can you just tell me a movie I should go see? And you had to call as many people as you could to get 3 of them to tell you.
Interesting.
Yeah. One, you have to like have the balls to cold call people and fucking and take them on the phone to get them.
And that's a certain skill too.
Yeah, that takes nuts. Yeah, and even when you're doing that, now there's something that all men have. All men have approach anxiety. And Peterson explains this too, because the worst rejection a man could have is to be rejected by a woman. It's the worst bruise to your ego, because that means you're not worthy of mating with. You're not worthy of producing offspring. That's what she's telling you. On a basic animalistic level, she's saying you're defective.
It's true.
So, I mean, really, that's
that's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line. For your main purpose in life, you do not fulfill it. You know, you've been weighed, you've been balanced, and you've been left wanting.
She looks at you and says, I do not want that inside of me.
Exactly.
Goodbye.
So all men fear, that walking up to somebody, because they can crush your ego right there. You're not worthy. So this kind of tries to help you get over that, because even when you're doing that, you have that, your heart starts beating, and then you just do it. So you got to get over. You know how many calls I had to make to get 3 people to tell me a movie? 3.
Really?
Yeah. People by nature want to talk to you.
Okay.
Especially if you're talking to them if you give them a good story. If you give them a good story, they'll fall for it. They talk about this with book queries. You got to have the hook. You got to get them in the first page. So if you have a good story, you get them in the first page. They want to talk to you. People are social. They want to be around other people. So it's fucking crazy what science tells you.
Yeah. Right. And a lot of these studies into the behavioral patterns of people, ultimately it comes down, again, like you were saying before, the science and the math and the statistics. And
I find horoscopes are even accurate. I don't know. I believe in them. I don't know if anybody else does. I believe in them. I think maybe people were tripping on some peyote then too. Open those doors of obsession.
Well, maybe you have some sort of strength in seeing yourself in everything. Maybe that has something to do with it. So you see yourself in a horoscope, you can see yourself in,
And there's also hindsight bias where you read it like, yeah, that is me. Right. Yeah, and no matter what it is, you're gonna say that. That's funny.
But it's like the especially back in, what was it, the early early 2000s and or late 90s or whatever, the Nostradamus shit was fucking huge, right? Especially after like 9/11. Oh, he fucking predicted 9/11. Holy shit! And it's like before the event happens, it looks like the ramblings of a fucking madman. But because you can glean like a little bit here, a little bit there. Oh, okay. All right, so maybe that was what he was talking. Like, you fucking extrapolate the knowledge you have now with the ramblings of a madman, and you piece it together, and all of a sudden you've made this guy some kind of visionary, and there's specials on him.
I should put together a book of predictions that are just a bunch of gibberish and like leave it in a wall somewhere.
Right?
You know, but like have predictions in there for stuff that actually did happen.
Mm.
You know? Oh man, that did happen. Look at the history book. That did happen. He predicted all that too. And look, he's talking about this in the future. It's just a bunch of gibberish.
Yeah, look at this. Somehow this guy knew the Yankees were going to be the best franchise in baseball.
I knew that. No. It's called math.
Yeah. It's
No,
one
not
of those things. It's just
not everybody knows math.
That's one of the constants, right? Death, taxes, and the Yankees. Right?
Hey,
the Yankees being fucking good.
The problem isn't rooting for the Yankees. The problem is living in the city with the greatest sports team in professional sports history and rooting for the other team.
Right.
I mean,
willingly, though.
Right, like how the fuck does that happen?
No, I was fucking born into this shit, man. I had no choice.
That's fucked up.
Oh man,
you're born into misery. You got to keep the misery going.
That cocaine's a hell of a drug.
You know, apparently, like in the 50s, I don't know what paper it was, but it might have been the New York Times or one of these papers. But they had a sports section where they had the National League and then they had the Yankee League, because they knew the Yankees were always gonna be in first. So they called, like, literally they would write in the Yankee League instead of American League.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. On a final note, because it's getting late, so I think it's going to be kind of cut out here soon. But final note, where do thoughts come from?
That's a good question.
Where does a singular thought come from?
My brain.
Does it? How come two people? How come people could be thinking the same thing at the same time?
Magic.
Where does the thought come from? If it's coming, if consciousness is a limiting factor, and you are taking in, your brain is taking in everything that's happening in the universe at the same time. I mean, quantum physics says the same thing. Quantum physics says everything is possible all at once, and the minute you focus on one of them, everything else disappears except for the one that you focus on. They've proven that on an atomic level. That's how it works. Okay, so it winds up being the same thing.
Right. Maybe you're just editing.
Like, right now, thinking is when you're conscious and you take that idea, you start kicking that idea around, start trying to figure out how to make it happen, or how it would work or stuff like that. But if a random thought pops into your head, was that you, or did something else put it there?
Yeah. Like, are we an experiment by the aliens, or?
I mean, maybe we're in the Matrix.
Stars collide. Exactly.
Maybe it's post-hypnotic suggestion.
Yeah, and that's where and again, this is a hallway I don't want to go down, but just you saying that's why a movie like The Matrix is so intriguing to so many people.
Yeah. I mean, well, it could. I mean, Elon Musk says
thought-provoking exercise, right?
Elon Musk says that we very well could be a simulation. We could be a video game that somebody else is playing. Yeah. Very good possibility.
Yeah, I mean, how many years have people with the alien experiment?
This is what happens when The Sims. When you're
petri dish somewhere.
Yep. This is The Sims, only they're not good. It's like The Sims 1.
We're all blocky and shit.
Right. It's terrible. There's an obesity problem in America.
Holy shit, there is, yeah.
This fucking person over here is too much.
Yo, you ain't alone, man. My belly is disgusting. I could float. You could tie me to a plane and land that thing in the ocean. It's horrible. Oh, anyway, yeah. So I think it's that's a pretty good show, pretty good long show. Any last words, fellas?
All the world's a stage. We are merely players, performers, and portrayers.
Huh? He's breaking out the Rush.
Yes.
That was an original by Walt.
Yeah, he wasn't thinking Shakespeare.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was editing.
Yeah. He's limiting the stream.
It was limiting thoughts.
I tried to limit my stream to the toilet.
Sometimes it has a mind of its own, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
out of control.
At the beginning of the show when you were like, when you were talking about aiming, having something to aim for, and has that ever happened to you? And I immediately thought about shit. Every time I go to the bathroom, that's what I'm thinking about. I gotta have something to aim for,
Like if you're in the bathroom, you're trying to like have a contest for how far you could piss and step back to piss into the toilet.
Yeah.
Right. You definitely need something to aim for. But you can't aim like at the toilet. You need to aim at something above because you gotta like arc it in.
Well, that's it. That's it. You got to get back far enough to arc it in.
Right, but if you aim too low,
how the hell did we get all this on a show about Jordan Peterson?
I don't know. You know what would be really bad though? You know what would be really bad if you're having a contest where you're trying to see how far back you can piss and you lose control and start spraying all over the place because you're gonna piss on your buddy.
Yeah. Well, you gotta
it's fire hose.
You gotta stream it. You got to stream it and have other people kind of do a limbo and see if they can get underneath it.
I don't think that's a limbo anybody wants to play. I don't know what bathrooms you're hanging out in.
It's full stream, right? But what happens when you get into the end and the stream? It's like the water pressure starts going down, so the stream starts going down.
Yes,
you got to shuffle towards the toilet.
Well, you got to get underneath before all that happens.
Yep. You got to run with your fucking shit hanging out.
That's part of the danger, right?
It's it'll compete with hungry hippos. I know it.
Don't get your nuts caught in the zipper when you run.
Franks and beans.
Franks and beans. How you get the Frank?
The Franks and beans. Is that the beans or the Frank?
Both.
Anyway, on that note, fellas, I think it's time for good night.
Alrighty.
Good night.